Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy, Thunderdrake Studios, coming at you with another spicy deck profile. Today, I have a deck that's from way back in 2013, but I figured since Tempest came off the list, I might as well talk about the other deck that made waves in that time frame, and let's talk about Spellbooks in 2019. Obviously, we had the Link Monster all the way back from Dual Power, and I recently picked this deck up, took it to a few tournaments, and actually didn't do half bad. So, real quick, let's just get straight on into it. There's not much to say. You just do a lot of spells, you do a lot of searching, and you just do all sorts of grind game, and this deck just basically doesn't lose if you can get past turn 10. So, let's start off with the monsters. 3 copies of your Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. You have to run 3 of him, of course. He searches your entire Spellbook engine. I mean, he's just another he's a walking secret, so you gotta run him at 3. Any less is incorrect and is dumb. Same with 3 High Priestess. She's your boss monster, and she's also your removal for the most part. You don't have too much removal in this deck, so you have to run 3 of her. In addition, just because you're playing a slower deck, you want to be able to put out big monsters like this. The only other card that I would cut her for is maybe 1 or 2 copies of Strength of Prophecy, because it's a normal summon that can also get big and recycle your engine for later game states. But more often than not, you want to recycle your engine with Spellbook Tower, which we'll get to later. And then you have 3 copies of your win con, Jogging the Spiritualist. If you see this card plus any searcher or draw card, you usually win. And that's it for monsters. No World of Prophecy, no Temperance of Prophecy, you don't need any of them. So, let's just get straight into the spell cards, because that's obviously what makes up most of the deck. They're called spellbooks for a reason. 3 Pod Duality. I would play Extravagance, but if you're on a budget, you can play Pod Duality. The only thing it does conflict with for the most part is High Priestess, because then you can't special summon her during the same turn that you activate this. But you're not trying to hurry along for the most part anyway, so like Duality's fine. And the ability to go 3 cards deep is near invaluable because it helps you modulate your hands even more than Extravagance does. Here's another card that Duality conflicts with. 3 Spellbook Library, the Crescent. This card does not allow you to activate Duality in the same turn, so sometimes you have to pick between these 2 of them. Usually I would pick Duality, but sometimes if you have no Spellbooks in hand, I would pick this instead. But both of them are very, very strong cards that you have to run as 3 ofs. Same with the Spellbook of Secrets. This searches Blue Boy searches this, it's all good. And then, something a little different that I do is I only run 2 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge. Knowledge and Knowledge sucks because it is a hard once per turn. You could run this at 3, but I actually only really like it at 2 because you can copy with Master in later game states. You could search it with this, you can search it with this. You could see it with this, you don't need to run 3 of them. So those are what I would call the starter spellbooks. Like more for the later game state, we have cards such as Spellbook of Eternity. You run 2 of it, it recurs your banished spellbooks, it's great with Spellbook of Fate. It's just a phenomenal card. You have to run 2 of it, and unfortunately you can't add itself back from the banish zone, so you always have to be a little bit careful so you don't banish one of these. But if you have to banish one, it's not the end of the world, you just have to be extra careful in the later game states. Here's something I do a little different. I actually run 2 copies of Spellbook of Power. I really like it at 2. You could run it at 1, but if I don't need the second one, I'll just side it out. And it also helps you close out games faster. It can be dead going first, but usually you can just sack it off for knowledge. You can just do all sorts of things like that. Next, we have 2 copies of Spellbook of the Master. This copies any normal spellbook in the graveyard while you control Spellcaster by revealing another spellbook. You can copy Power, you can copy Eternity, you can copy Knowledge, Secrets, and you can actually copy Crescent because it copies the effect and not the condition. So that's always just a little funny thing to do, is if you don't get what you want off of Crescent, you can just throw in Master and then just try again. So now we'll get on to the non-normal spellbooks. We have the best card in the entire deck, 2 copies of Spellbook of Fate. You could run 3, I like it too though, because breaking on multiple copies of this is not fun, because it's a hard once per turn. And I mean, you could opening 2 of them sucks, but if you open 3, like your odds are you don't have Jowgen, odds are you don't have Tower, you basically lose. Speaking of Tower, 2 copies of Spellbook Tower. I know, gold rare, but you gotta do what you gotta do. This card is insane. The ability to put a spellbook back to the bottom of your deck to draw a card during all of your standby phases, this card is the reason that you win games, because you just sit on Jowgen and you just accrue so much advantage that your opponent can't even handle that anymore. Then we have a few 1-ofs, 1 Wisdom. This is great in the Striker matchup and the Sal matchup, and I would even say in the Draco matchup because of the new ban list. That deck will become more relevant. Basically makes your spellbooks immune to either spells or traps throughout the turn. So that's very good in those matchups. Dead against Danger Thunder and dead against arguably Orcust because Rusty's gone, so Fogblade's not as big of an issue. The odds are they're going to go more for Bomber Dragon. That's why I only run one in the main deck. You could side deck the other two, which is what I do, but we'll get onto that later. One Spellbook of Life, search for Monster Reborn. Unfortunately, you have to reveal one in your hand as well, so sometimes this can be a little bit too slow. You could run regular Monster Reborn, but I like Spellbook of Life. And then here's my spicy little tech, Spellbook Starhall. We like finishing games fast, but we don't want to rush the deck because when you rush this deck, that's when you lose. So every time you activate a spellbook, you get a spell counter, and your spellcasters gain 100 attack for each spell counter on it. So you can just, there have been times where I've gotten like 15 counters on this, and then Jabin gets up to like 1800 attack. It's crazy. And then the last spell card we run, took this deck from Asian Persuasion, Moon Mirror Shield. This card is just literally insane. I was debating on like Acts of Fools or stuff like that. No, this one's so much better because it recycles itself, and it basically means they cannot swing over Jowgen. So yeah, that's it for spell cards. We run 25 total. I wouldn't cut any of these. The only thing I may put in would maybe be like another Fate, but that's just up to personal preference. We do run a few trap cards, in particular 3 Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. All this is standard to Asian Persuasion's list. You can go check them out on YouTube. I basically took some of the list, took what I liked, and modified some things that I didn't. And basically, the traps, I liked all of his choices, same with 2 Mirror Force. This is the Spy removal, this is the Mass Monster removal if they get past your Jowgen, because no one respects this, so people will usually play right into this. And I've been to a few tournaments with this deck, and every time I flip this, they're just like, oh, you play that? I'm just like, yes, I do. And it basically led to me winning, because they put out a big board of monsters, but didn't play around this card, even though it's been around for years, and they lost to it. Now, you could cut Mirror Force for Solemn Judgment. It's back at 3, which is just downright scary. The fact that you're able to just negate anything with this is insane. I still like Mirror Force though, because paying half your life points over and over again, this deck does have trouble spitting out damage. So if you do pay enough life points and your opponent gets past Jowgen, it could spell game for you. That's why I still only like 1 Judgment. I'm tempted to play it at 2, but that's just up to personal preference again. This deck is pretty flexible. The 3 ofs you have to run 3 ofs, but the rest of them, you can really modulate the ratios to whatever you like. So that's it for the main deck, 40 in the main, so you have 9 monsters, 6 traps, and 25 spell cards. I call this deck Striker Light because it basically does the same sort of thing where it just tutors through a large spellbook arsenal and just finds whatever it needs at a certain time. This deck does run an extra deck, but there's only one card that really matters, and it's Crowley the Prophecyr. Basically, it's a Crescent on legs. It chooses cards though, so you can search Blue Boy, which is huge, and then it lets you normal summon your High Priestess with attributing, so that's pretty nice. And then you could run other cards as well. One of the cards that I run actually is 2013, Dracosack. It's spot removal and it's a rank 7. You could just run triple Crowley and then a bunch of rank 7s and you're fine. The side deck doesn't really matter either, it's just a pretty standard side deck. You have your Kaijus. You could replace this with Gamma Seal or whatever, but I like the big Kaijus because then you can bounce it back to your hand, and if your opponent gives themselves a Kaiju for whatever reason, you just special summon him, and then you just beat over their Kaijus. Then you have a 3,300 attack point beater. Then we have 3 Lancia and 3 Effect Veiler. You just have to run both of these because Thunder Dragon's still in the meta. This is much better than Ash because Ash can be chain blocked in the Saryuja circumstance, so you don't want your hand shot to be shut out by that. So Veiler's good. Lancia just shuts down Orcust, shuts down Thunder Dragon to an extent as well. And then we have a few spells, not a ton, but I mean these are all very, very strong. For example, 2 Call by the Grave, you need it in the Salad matchup. It's not as big anymore, but their regular trap Solemn Great Rage does hurt because with 1 card they can get rid of like 3 of yours, and you don't like that very much. So you really want to be able to just like stop them from making plays. If you Call by the Grave the Gazelle, they basically lose. So that's it for that. Do MST, have to run it. You could play Twin Twisters, but I don't like the discard in this deck. It does come up sometimes, but for the most part MST does enough because you already run so much main deck removal. The other 2 Wisdom, Striker, Salad, Orcust, to an extent, like this is just good in those matchups. I only side deck these because Thunder Dragon, it's so dead to see this going first or second. It never comes with that matchup. And here is my spice. 2 copies of Afterburners. Afterburners is insane in this deck simply because you're dumping spellbooks to the graveyard like there's no tomorrow. So if you drop 3 spellbooks and then you fire this, not only are you searching through your engine with Spellbook of Secrets, Spellbook Library, Spellbook of Knowledge, but you're also getting able to blow up their stuff. So that's about it for my deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button once again, smash it, don't let it survive to another day. And I'll see you guys later.